We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Thursday. We're getting through this week. It's been kind of a nutty week, starting with the weekend, of course. We've got the RNC convention going on. That's a shit show in itself. We'll talk about that. And thankfully, we have a guest who's come along to help us out today. Face you know, or a voice you know, Jace from Texas. And Jace, welcome. It's opportune that you would be here today because over and above all the national shit, well, you got a real shit show going on down in Texas.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to Boomer Brigade for not being old. So I know she's usually here on Thursday, but I know she's doing the Lord's work
In
and
Texas.
down here in Texas, and God knows we need it. So a shout out to Old Soul. Thank you for doing that. So maybe I can kind of just kind of take her place just for one day. I know I never can and stuff like
Well,
that,
you
but
can
I
warm the
appreciate what
seat.
she's doing.
You can warm the seat, and Old
Yeah,
Soul
yeah,
will be
that's
back.
it. Yeah. She'll be back, but she's doing a good thing here in Texas, which this state needs because God knows it. Like you said, it's a clusterfuck sometimes, and it starts from the top on down. And all I can say about Greg Abbott is that I heard you and
Eric.
Eric talking about Texas and Florida, and we were talking offline. I have more faith in Florida turning mostly blue before Texas. The thing that gets me about Texas, and I've said it before, I think Colin Allred has a chance to beat Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz is so hated. He's actually trying to court Democrats now, and if any Democrat votes for him, you're an idiot. Um, but I lost my train of thought. Greg Abbott is in. I guess he's going to Milwaukee. I guess to
Oh,
stump for Trump.
wow.
And Greg Abbott has a history of during the same election cycle, the grid went down up north in North Dallas. Luckily, it didn't happen here. And the also during his same thing before he ran for reelection, Uvalde happened.
Right.
He overwhelmingly won reelection. So a lot of people saying, "Oh, this may be the end of him with these people in Houston." I just don't see it. I mean, he's not running for reelection,
Well, let me ask
but
you. Let me ask you this. Something that most of us who aren't in Texas don't know. You and Old Soul do. With that hurricane coming through, we hear stories. What are the conditions and the circumstances in Texas right now in the aftermath of that hurricane?
well, I've seen as of I believe today, most of the power's up. There's still a few that aren't, but as of like earlier this week, there were a lot of people, a lot of people. It went over a week or close to 2 weeks with people without power. But what pissed off a lot of people is that the Astros downtown Houston, they got that stadium up and running. I don't know if it was affected by the hurricane,
Yeah.
but a lot of people saw that. It's like, oh wow, you can have corporate business, get their stuff running, but Joe Smo over here, Joe Sixpack, as they say, can't. And it's a problem Houston has. I mean, Houston is just evidently it's a lot of industrial concrete that I guess that that's always prone to flooding. They did a bunch of changes evidently after Hurricane Harvey a few years ago, and I guess they were still having flooding issues. So I mean, I don't know. What gets me about Abbott and our leadership here in Texas is that the border is Joe Biden's problem,
Right.
and that he should be down here doing this. But they knew this hurricane was coming for a while. It was going to hit. There were forecasts before it was going to hit Texas. I mean, some of the models had it going towards here in San Antonio, and it hit San Antonio. We're a little bit more prepared, but we don't have as much. We have more kind of, I guess, urban areas with with grass and stuff, and not just all cement and built up like a big city. But he was out of the country. He was in South Korea making deals with which is great for the economy, but and then he tweets. I believe he tweeted something about how when Biden or not when the attempt on Trump happened, he wrote all this stuff and people took that to mean I was like, well, you would tweet about Trump before you would, tweet about your own people here.
Right. Right.
And there's a reason, there's a lot of reason why Texans leadership, feels powerful. they had Paxton, our Attorney General Paxton, indicted, but they didn't go through with it.
Right.
I mean, I mean, it was a kangaroo court, and those people that prosecuted Paxton, they got primaried, and then I think 9 out of 10 got beat.
Well,
So Texas leadership and people down in Texas, and this is what the Republicans count on, people down here don't vote. They just don't turn out.
here's the thing. You have the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. Joe happens to be in Delaware, I think, at the time, or New Hampshire, out east. The moment he hears about it, he jumps on a plane and comes back to Washington, D.C., should he have to do something or protection or whatever. We had Gregory Abbott in Asia. The hurricane hit. I mean, shit can happen while you're away. He didn't hop on a plane and rush right back to run his state as governor, which he should do. Being away is one thing, but not rushing back to take care of business, that's troubling and certainly seems negligent.
But it's his history of doing stuff. I mean, it's the stuff with the power grid. It's the stuff with I mean, when they had Uvalde, they had a bunch of them up there, saying that, it could be worse. I mean, that's was his word. The only one who was calling him out was Beto O'Rourke. But Beto O'Rourke, I mean, he gets beat bad by Abbott. I mean, people are obviously fine with Greg Abbott's leadership down here. I can't figure it out. I mean, I've never voted for the guy. I mean, something's got to change in Texas to where people, I guess, Uvalde, or I guess, the a hurricane, or the grid going out. I mean, it's the same old, and it's and now they're kind of running out of people to blame, because Ken Paxton was here saying the Democrats have infiltrated the Republican Party. I mean, and then you have Lieutenant Dan Patrick. I mean, Biden was trying to get a hold of him to release the aid, but then I think Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick said, "Well, no, President Biden got confused. He was talking about the other hurricane." It's like, no, he reached out to talk to you to get this stuff going. He doesn't hold it against you like Trump did for the wildfires in California.
Right.
It's like the Republicans want, and being a former Republican and seeing this, they want everybody else held to account more than they are.
Right.
They want Biden to step down because he's got caught in the decline, but Trump has shown that left and right. And it's like if Obama had half the charges that Trump had, they treated him like he had twice the charges Trump had.
Right. Right.
But that's what's so frustrating about the Democrats now, is that the Republicans are just, it don't matter what Trump does, there is no bottom. And I'm sorry, being a former Republican, I mean, they have pretty much extinguished the party of Lincoln, the party of Reagan. I mean, Reagan, I mean, say what you want to about him, but I mean, he wasn't, I mean, he was a patriot in his own way. I mean, he fucked a lot of shit up, but he didn't, he did what he thought was right. George Bush too. I mean, it's just what the Republicans have become, and what the Democrats are is like, I see a lot of with the Democrats. I see a lot of reasons why a lot of people don't trust the Democrats, because the Democrats don't seem to stand for anything.
No,
And
that's true.
I'm just seeing it now with all this so-called leadership, as a former Republican seeing this stuff. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of them are called bedwetting liberals, and it's very frustrating because Biden can beat Trump and handily, but the Democrats see a poll. Oh my God, you can't do that. You got to stand behind Joe.
Yeah, at some point you got to make the right choice and stick with it. But Old Soul suggested something about why some of these Democrats are pushing back against Joe Biden. And Joe Biden just got flat out annoyed earlier today or yesterday when some guy named Crow, a Representative Crow, talked about him stepping down. And Joe said, "I've told you before, no, that's not happening." And then Joe goes, "If you want to step away from me, go ahead." And he goes, "Well, no, I don't want to do that." And he goes, "Just do it." And then they start saying, "Well, Joe's a cranky old man." Well, you're president of the United States. If people keep questioning your decisions, you're going to get pissed. It's not that Joe's pissed. It's that you're doing stupid shit.
And I think she also mentioned something too about how Biden's kind of going after the rich to make them pay their fair share. And before, when they
Right.
backed Joe and stuff, he was more of a corporate. A lot of progressives didn't like him because he was corporate. But I believe that too, because if you notice, it's the older guard, the Pelosi, the shift now. The older ones are the ones that are kind of, I guess Schumer now, or that's supposedly what the rumor is. Excuse me. But the younger ones like AOC and that girl from Texas, Jackson, I believe her name is,
Yeah.
and I mean they're the progressives are like supporting him, and it's like maybe it's definitely a time for a change. If the news reports are true about Jeffries, saying that he should step down, I'm really disappointed because I had a lot of hope for him, and I just you don't like 3 or 4 months into it. What you said it should have been done 2 years ago. I mean, why
Yeah.
all of a sudden are they worried about his? I mean, and the polls. I mean, there's polls where Biden's ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, are they seeing some polls that I'm not seeing? I mean, the
No,
assassination attempt didn't bump Trump's numbers up any.
they've got an agenda, and the agenda they'll try to make it sound like they're right and everybody's wrong, but nothing suggests what they're suggesting. It's just they got this agenda and they got in their minds that they want to push Joe out, and I don't understand that whole contention because they look at keeping Joe in as a risk, but they don't see pulling somebody out of a hat because they do want to jump over Kamala, and I don't think they should do that. If you're going to
No.
switch it up, go with protocol. Vice president, she would be the next in line in the next election, and she would be next in line if something happened to Joe. So that seems like the only choice. It's just that these woke Democrats are worried about, oh, can we have a black woman as running for president? Well, those are your
Yes.
two options, an elderly white man or a younger black woman. These are your choices. You don't get to have exactly what you want.
And what gets me too is that whole old saying, you can't see the forest beyond the trees or whatever that is. You honestly think Biden's going to serve 4 years when he's reelected? I don't.
Oh, I don't
I
either.
think I think, like Eric said, he'll like maybe 2 years into it, a little over 2 years after midterms, he'll step away and let her do it because she can have 10 years to run.
Right.
And I think it's what's getting me now is I'm seeing I'm still optimistic because I think the what the media is not talking about is how much people disdain Trump. You had people on the Republican. I don't know if it was on this one or another meeting, but they were asking, "Well, if Trump's a nominee, you vote for him?" She goes, "Hell no, I'm a Haley voter, and if he's the president, and if he's a nominee, I'm going to vote for Democrat." I mean,
Right.
and all those people, they weren't voting for Haley; they were voting against Trump.
Right. Right.
And I see these TikTok creators, and one of them is somebody that irritated me because he was doing the Joe thing. He's a very popular hawk.
Yeah.
I saw him on there today saying, "Well, Trump's winning," and it's like, and it's just like that's not doing any good. You
It's
know what
not
I
doing
mean? It's
any good, and it's stupid.
no,
It's emotional. I mean, I'm with you on this, and I just firmly believe that it's not only going to be a win for Joe Biden, it's going to be a significant win
yes,
because you can talk about who's going to vote for who with your little categories of people who are on your polls and stuff like that. But just based on who Donald Trump is, Donald Trump got Joe 81 million votes in 2020 because they were scared to death of him, not because Joe Biden was such a spellbinding fucking candidate. They are more scared now. They are more scared by a long shot from what they were in 2020. Plus,
I know I am.
they have more things to worry about. Roe v. Wade, immunity, 34 felony convictions. All this shit is piled on. We, like you said, we know the Republican Party is split or at least fractured somewhat. We know that a Republican cannot win if he doesn't have total unity with the Republican Party and some independents. And independents, we know at least half of them won't vote for Donald Trump. Just those things alone tell you he can't win against anybody.
And what I see also too, I see a lot of dislike for the Vance pick because a lot of it goes
Oh,
with his wife. his wife because she's not, he's in a mixed marriage.
Right.
I've seen a lot of upset about that, and a lot of those people are upset that he was a never Trumper. And JD Vance represents something that Trump needed, and that's why he picked him, is that he's courted the billionaires like Musk and all them because he's supposedly, I guess, buddies with them. And I think that's what was more appealing to Trump. But knowing Trump, he probably picked Vance because everybody told him to pick somebody else. I mean,
Right.
I mean, it's a carbon copy of Trump. I mean, it's a guy that changes. I mean, Trump was, pro-choice at one time. Vance was, anti-Trump at one time. You
Right.
see the connection right there? It's like whatever fits where I'm at that point is what I'll become. He can be molded.
Vance was a horrible pick for Donald Trump. Donald Trump
Oh,
in
I
his
agree.
Donald Trump in his mind thinks he's going to straddle the fence. He came out taking credit for overturning Roe v. Wade and this whole national abortion thing. All of a sudden, the Republicans, and I don't know why they just figured it out, because you and I figured it out a year ago or 2 years ago, they're going, this abortion thing isn't working well for us for the election. So let's just soften how we feel about it. Well, as long as you're against Roe v. Wade, these women are going to vote against you, whether you soften it or not. But then they run into another problem, because if they soften it, then the evangelicals are going to get pissed off. So they bring in J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has said things like he wants a national abortion ban, that people should stay in unhappy marriages, even if there is domestic violence. That's what he says. He says that we should protect the unborn child at all costs, even if a woman is raped or there was incest. We can't kill these unborn babies just because women are inconvenienced. Well, if you've ever listened to the show, an old soul on the show, we hear about the horrors that these women go through. I mean, it's absolutely inhumane how these states like Texas and some others treat these poor women that may have been raped or abused or something, and they need some reproductive health care, and they refuse to let them get it. They have to leave the state, stay with Old Soul, and even still, they're trying to fucking track them down. So it doesn't matter if the Republicans want to soften it, and Donald Trump thinks he can pull this guy in to keep the evangelicals on board while he can try to placate the Democrats. It ain't going to work. You may placate the evangelicals, but the Democrats aren't having it. And as long as the Republicans support making abortion a nationally illegal, they can't win. It's 75% of the people that support it.
What the craziest thing for me is any woman that supports the Republican Party. Because if you look at the Republican Party, conservative, whatever you want to call it, the woman is expendable because she can die as long as that so-called baby is protected.
Right.
And it's like, and I was at a restaurant the other day and I saw a woman with, pro-choice on there, anti-abortion shirt. And it's like, it's not, and a lot of us, when we're raised in evangelical, we're taught it's cut and dry. That,
Yeah.
that when Trump says, they're killing the baby outside the womb, I heard
It's a
that
lie.
years ago. I
It's a
used to
lie.
believe that. No, I know it's a lie, but I heard that years ago when I was raised in a private school of them telling me that the
Yeah.
Democrats want to kill a baby once it's outside the womb. So all Trump is doing is he's just bringing it to the mainstream. And a lot of people get, and it's like funny, a lot of people get shocked by this stuff, but I guess I'm a little bit more kind of a veteran of seeing this. Nothing shocks me anymore when it comes to evangelicals.
Yeah.
And one of the problems I had is like, the poor lady, she can have all this problem. She may die. But what they're doing is they're focusing on the fetus or, whatever you call it, and they're going to let her die. She's expendable as long. And people ask me, well, why do the Republicans, and why are they thinking this way? A war on women is because that's exactly what it is. It is a war on women
It
because the
is.
woman doesn't look as important as that baby because in their mind, that baby could cure cancer. That woman, 20, 25 years old, she's had a good run. Let's get that baby out of there.
Well,
That's the way I interpret it growing up. It's like, well, I would want my wife. Well, no, no, God's in command and all this stuff. Bullshit. That's your choice. It's your body.
Well, the ironic thing about it is if this woman dies, gives birth to a baby, that baby has happens to be a girl 25 years later, she goes through the
Yep.
same thing. It's just a constant run of diminishing or disparaging women for the sake of some religious ideology. Um, the
Mhm.
evangelicals and the people who believe this can't think beyond the end of their nose. They are making this black and white. But if you sit and listen to Old Soul and tell the story she tells, you realize very quickly that there are women severely struggling and suffering because of
Yes.
this draconian shit. And that's why I say when we come up to the election in November, the vast majority of women are not going to vote Republican, whether Donald Trump is the presidential candidate or JD Vance or whoever the fuck it is, because they don't want constitutional rights. They want bodily autonomy. That's the least they can ask for, and they should get it.
And what people down here don't realize, Republicans, that what, especially in Texas, is that doctors are pretty much afraid because the legislatures have said, we'll make abortion illegal. Well, we will go after the doctors that perform them, and that is not just a that's just not doctors that perform abortions. You're going to have primary care doctors say, "Fuck this."
Yeah,
They're not going to be down here anyway. And who does that affect? That affects the men.
right.
And it's perfectly fine for the men to get a prescription to Viagra, but and knock some chick up, but that woman stuck with that baby. Bullshit.
Yeah,
Personal fucking responsibility. And and when a woman does that, and a lot of times, and the man ain't around to do that. She's by herself. She's a teenager. She could have been raped by an uncle. Old Soul is giving those stories. It's just like I don't know what it's gonna. I don't know. I think the only time it really affects somebody is when it hits them, like that lady that Biden had, Joe Biden had at the State of the Union. She was a Republican, the one down here, and then they were told her, "You can't do this with your body." I
right.
mean, the same party that keep your hands off our guns and our Bibles. Well, you can touch our the V's. I won't be vulgar about it, but you go after the woman's vagina, but don't touch them Bible or don't touch them guns. You
Right.
know,
Right. Well,
which
the
is
the thing about it is it's also the hypocrisy of it all. Old Souls told other stories where you're probably coming out of Texas. You got mom and dad absolutely against abortion, but as luck would have it, their daughter becomes pregnant and they readily and willingly send her to another state to have an abortion. They're totally against abortions. Well, unless my kid gets it, and then it's okay for me to do it. And there's a lot of that too.
well, they have that thing in here. I think it's around El Paso or something. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but there's like some like local town that wants to, like, I guess, have checkpoints for to
Yeah.
to check cars for people going to another state. Who the fuck are you to do that?
I don't
You know
even
what I
think you
mean?
can constitutionally do that.
But Mike, what happened to that fucking party that Ronald Reagan likes to say, "Well, I'm from the government and I have the fix." What the fuck is this, Mike? I mean, what? I mean, free government, states' rights. What? I mean, it doesn't stand for that anymore. And you have a lot of people. I know they're not going to vote for Trump, but you have a lot of people that are okay with that. You have a
But
lot of people
yeah,
that they evidently know Trump's going to lose and lose big time, like McConnell said, or they totally wrapped up in the Trump Kool-Aid like the MAGA is. I mean, I like to think that I would like to think that Lindsey Graham's not a dumb guy, evidently. I know McConnell's definitely not. They were booing him at the Republican National Convention. That's the
right.
motherfucker that got Roe versus Wade turned over for you bitches,
Yeah,
and you don't even realize it.
right, right.
So
Well,
it's just stupidity. I saw something today where I read MAGA is more impressed with Trump's attitude and acting out than they are his policies because he doesn't have any.
yeah, he doesn't have any.
None.
And I can't sit and watch the Republican National Convention because it's like an arguing comedy He-Man women haters group. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not silly. It's just fucking silly watching these people step up there and talk and constantly lie. They never get pushed back by the media or anybody else. They're
No, they get
allowed to
embraced by
lie.
the media.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
I saw something. I'm sorry, Mike.
no, go ahead.
I'm kind of like, I'm kind of just tied up with this. I'm very being on the other side, seeing this happen here. And then I'm seeing these Republicans, call out Democrats for this stuff. It's like, you know what, motherfucker, you couldn't save your own goddamn party. Leave your hands off this one.
Yeah.
Like Joe Walsh and, well, goddamn Democrats, he's got COVID. Well, motherfucker, Joe Biden didn't get COVID on purpose. He got it because it's fucking still out there. And
Now, if I were,
you don't think Republicans haven't got it? They just don't get tested.
yeah, yeah, that's what I said. Joe Biden's got COVID. It was released. We all know, but it's been 4 days and we don't know the after effects of Donald Trump getting shot in the fucking
Nope.
ear. I don't even think he got shot. Here's a guy that's running around playing golf the next day and selling t-shirts with his picture on it and the blood on his face. There was a certain period of time when it happened. You have to have a certain amount of reverence and solemnity and such. But then the next day he's out selling t-shirts and fucking playing golf. I think the whole respect period is over. So fuck Donald Trump and whatever happened there in Pennsylvania, because it does, people said, well, it seems staged. And right away, I'm going to say I'm not jumping on conspiracy theories because that's a way to look really stupid. But there are a lot of fishy things about this. Um, and I know when things like this happen, there's always people picking little things out. But what's interesting about this situation, which I find the most troubling, is they're talking about a failure with Secret Service, right? Okay, shit can happen. That kind of shit can happen. But what I found out yesterday was that prior to that speech and prior to the assassination attempt, the NSA contacted the Secret Service about a credible threat of an assassination from Iran. And as
Yep.
soon as that threat was passed along to the FBI or the Secret Service, they beefed up their protection. Okay, so we didn't just see a normal Secret Service protection group with Donald Trump that day. We saw a beefed up group of folks and protecting Donald Trump, and they still failed. They didn't fail close. It was a miserable failure. And how do you explain that? It's the only way you can explain it, and the reason why people think it's staged is because you got a building, higher ground, wide open, nobody near it, people told not to go near it. It seems kind of strange that would happen in this day and age.
Well, Mike, I want to bring something up that I haven't heard you or any of your guests say. He is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame.
That's
Donald
true.
Trump is.
That's true.
So he got in for a reason. Um, I personally, I have mixed feelings on it. I used to be a big, of course, I was a Republican. I was a big conspiracist. I mean, God, can you imagine the how excited Art Bell would be getting if he was alive today?
Yeah.
I mean, I believed in that Area 51, and I believe, there's still, there's stuff out there that's questionable, but
There's
there's an old
stuff the
saying,
government doesn't tell us.
yeah,
We know
that
that's a
they don't
fact.
they can't tell us because you see how we act about this. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
Biden had a bad night. Oh my God, let's freak out.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, okay, there's aliens and they landed in 1948. You imagine the mass hysteria? I mean, my God, COVID, we all fucking went after toilet paper. I mean, Jesus Christ, no wonder they keep us in the dark, which they should.
Here's my
But
opinion. Here's my opinion. If the aliens landed in 1948 and we're still sitting here in 2024, they must be okay. We're fine.
yeah, I agree. But I mean, it's the thing about it is that I don't trust anything Trump says.
No, you can't.
When somebody, I mean, I think what happened is that there was a shooter. He was a very disturbed young man, but he was a Republican. And what got Trump is the plexiglass probably scraped his ear because if he, I've seen, I'm not a gun person. I'm not a very big gun person. I would probably shoot myself if I had one on accident, but his ear would be gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen enough Schwarzenegger movies to know that.
Yeah. You
I
can't get
mean,
hit with that kind of bullet, high velocity bullet, and not
and what gets me
take a
about,
notch out of it. And it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it.
and what you said too was about how narcissists are cowards.
Yeah.
Like there was a thing one time when I think somebody rushed the stage when he was running back in 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And that motherfucker dropped. He
Yeah.
was scared.
Yeah. He was scared.
But when he got up there, and I don't know if it's doctored because you can't trust anything these days, but he goes, hold on, let me. And he goes like this. I mean, if that's not a WWE moment, I'm not saying it is, but you have a lot of people that are questioning that. And I see a lot of Democrats. How dare you question that? Have you seen Trump for the last? Have you followed how he is? Do you? I say this, trust but verify.
Right.
If
Right.
you don't question stuff, I mean, there's a well-known atheist, Christopher Hitchens, that passed away, but he has a saying, question everything, think for yourself. And I'm not saying, go grab a bunch of Gatorade and, get a bunker in Arizona. But, what we're seeing now with the media stuff now is you're seeing this whole liberal media thing being blown away.
Yeah.
There is no liberal media.
No.
This media is about to make money. And like you said, it was Nightline. They found out when the Iran Contra, they found out they can make money off this. And that's when, and I guess there's an old movie I was reading about it that they recommended Network,
Network. Yeah.
saying how this pretty much forecasts that back in the 70s that
Yeah.
they realize they can make money off it. I mean, it's dirty laundry. It's like the Don Henley song, kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. I
Yeah.
mean, it's why do you think every weather girl you see is hot?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to watch some dude on there. I want to watch some, girl from, I mean, that's what I want to, he's like, hey, but what makes her more qualified than like you or me doing it? She's a lot better looking.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
about, that's what people watch. And I'm guilty of it too. And that's what the media has become.
Well, everything's become tabloid
Yes.
in terms of the news and such. But what's interesting, one of the reasons why people think this was staged is because who Donald Trump is. I mean,
Yeah.
I talked about 2016 when this lawsuit came out, where Donald Trump was a co-defendant with Jeffrey Epstein regarding raping a 13-year-old girl, and then it disappeared. And I said at that time, I said, well, she probably got threatened. That'd be the only reason to drop that lawsuit. And everybody goes, oh, that's a little crazy. That's a little conspiracy theorist. But now, 8 years later, does it sound so crazy that Donald Trump might have threatened her or Jeffrey Epstein might have threatened her? No, it's a realistic possibility, especially now when Donald Trump shows up in the documents with Jeffrey Epstein. And so the same thing here is the idea that a presidential candidate would stage something to make himself look like a hero in order to win the election, even if there is some collateral damage. Doesn't sound that crazy when Donald Trump's involved. It would sound crazy with anybody else, but it doesn't sound crazy with Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that's what happened or it was staged, but this is why people said, okay, Donald Trump got shot at, so he's automatically going to win. You heard the Republicans say that. They say that after every event, and it's all bullshit. But then the Democrats started saying that. Well, does that give him the win? I don't know. Let's think about it. It's certainly going to embolden the Republicans. Oh, you tried to kill our guy. But these guys were going to vote for him anyway. Go to the left and ask anybody on the left, are they sympathetic to Donald Trump? No, they'll say it was staged. Donald Trump didn't gain any fucking votes in that situation. He didn't look like a hero to the people on the left where he needed to get votes from. They all think he faked it. So, perception is reality. Whether he faked it or not, a lot of people believe he did. So, in their minds, it happened.
Okay. I want to, talking about Epstein. Did you ever notice that when he died, who was president?
Trump.
So, can you imagine if Hillary was president and Epstein died? that same way. I asked a friend of mine when that happened, and he goes, "Oh yeah," and I go, "Who's president?" It's funny how they were all quiet.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
who had more incentive to get rid of? I mean, yeah, they all say Hillary, but see that's what the Republicans have done. They tarnished Hillary so bad to the one person that could Trump could beat was Hillary. That's what people don't realize either. And a lot of people say, well, James Comey screwed Hillary. If it took just him to say that, then she was already damaged goods. It was the perfect storm of what happened.
Well,
This is why I don't think Trump will win, because he so hated the only person he could beat was Hillary.
right, right. Well, and
And
the thing about it is what I have the most problem with. You got the Republicans trying to tarnish every opponent they go up against in some of the most ridiculous, outrageous, unprovable ways. It's all lies.
yes,
My problem is as of late, and it seems to have gotten worse lately,
yes,
fucking left side media is complicit in it because they see money in it, they see viewership in it, so they don't push back or question it. There's very few people in the media right now that say I trust. Maybe Lawrence O'Donnell, maybe Joy Reid, but there's not too many people I trust on MSNBC, especially.
I I haven't really watched MSNBC lately. After the debate, I lost a lot of respect for Nicole. I have lost respect for Ari when he had Avenatti on there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
Rachel
I
Ma-
agree.
Rachel Maddow, I don't think helps. I think I loved her to death, but I think Lawrence O'Donnell, I think Joy Reid, I think Mika,
Mika's good.
I think Joe Scarborough. I give him credit because he's a Republican and he's actually defended Joe more than a lot of Republicans, Democrats have. They were pissed off because I guess they weren't on Monday
Right,
after the
right.
Trump shooting because they were afraid something would happen. But it's backfired because all the ratings for CNN, MSNBC, Fox is always going to be, the dominant because, people don't have to think when they watch that channel,
Right.
but MSNBC, you attack, a president. And I think you're right. You said something that I haven't heard a lot of people say, but people like Biden.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when I think, a lot of those polls, well, he should step down. I think people are generally concerned about him. I think that, I think they like Biden and respect Biden more than they will give Trump. I mean, I think that, it's like Mark Cuban said, the priest could be given Joe Biden his last rites. I'd still vote for him before I voted for Trump.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, they make fun of the Weekend at Bernie's, versus, a Sith Lord from Star Wars. And Joe Biden is, he's older. I still think that I wish, but but that life is not fair. He should have run in 16. He would have beat Trump big time.
Yeah.
But of course, Bo died. And I mean, the guy has gone through so much. The guy has gone through so much shit in his life. You don't think he can't fucking handle this?
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't get the credit for the economy. The Republicans and Trump are already freaking out, like, well, they better not lower us interest rates before the election. They're gonna fucking do that.
Yeah.
Gas prices are down. I saw, Barbie doll Matt Gates. That's another story about his facelift. I guess he got a facelift, or
Wow.
maybe, or
I didn't
maybe
see
Kevin
that.
McCarthy knocked the shit out of him. Yeah, hey, I hate somebody that makes me root for somebody else because I hate Kevin McCarthy, but I want Kevin McCarthy just to knock the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's supposed to be, but it's like, if anybody deserves, to have a moment to blow stuff off is Kevin,
Matt,
because
Matt, Matt,
guys screwed
Matt,
him.
Matt, and the thing you have to agree with is that Matt has one of the most punchable faces in the
Yeah.
history of the country. If I saw him and didn't have anything against him, I'd almost have to punch him just by virtue of that face.
And relax, people. I'm not invoking violence. It's just a matter of speech. I don't want nobody to try to cancel me, especially because I don't
Eh,
know, Democrats right now, they're kind of getting on my last nerve, but not
uh,
all of them. But it's like,
Jace, I will tell you this on this show, ain't nobody canceling anybody. You could fucking try to cancel me, but I got no boss. I got
yeah,
nobody to answer to. I'm going to keep
yes,
doing
sir.
this, whether people like me or not. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Mike, because you actually are you're reaching us, and you do, you got me after 2022 because I was and I think the reason why I'm not freaking out about I think I'm more aggravated than I am
Yeah, me too.
worried because it's like this shit seemed to be dying down. And then Schiff comes out here today and says this stuff. Even if Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer told him to step down, they supported him publicly.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the thing I believe. But no, Schiff has to come out there and say this. And honestly, he's not having too good of a time, but I still think he'll be Garvey. I don't think that there's going to be anything about. I've donated to Schiff before. I'm not in California, but after his job, he worked on the January 6th commission. I've donated to his campaign. He got a letter today, wanting me to donate to his thing. And I wrote back and it asked, why? And I was able to write, you're not supporting Biden. I'm the one supporting you. Unsubscribe me.
Well, that's a good point. This is what I think these Democrats who are doing this don't account for. And this is about arrogance and thinking they're
Yes.
special. I said in a TikTok, guess what? Politicians don't pick who wins the presidency. We
Yep.
fucking pick it. And if you're paying attention to the polls, you better pay attention to the people because what's happening now that you're pushing against Joe? People are getting pissed. People of
I
color are
am.
coming out in force and
Yes.
saying, fuck you.
Yep.
And so
And
so they should recognize that. And that tells me a lot more than polls. That tells me that people are invested and emotional and want to fight for Joe. And that's more valuable than any poll.
I do. After the debate, I donated to Joe again.
Yeah.
I donated to again. I mean, it ain't, I ain't, Elon Musk down here, but I the thing that got me too is kind of people like, that I used to like to kind of be away from that mainstream and crying is people like Keith Olbermann. He did that one, and you probably saw it on his TikTok where he was saying, well, there's these polls that, show him way down, and I never saw those polls.
I never saw
And
one of
the
those
polls and
polls.
the polls change from day to day. Oh yeah, Trump's up 6 points, then it's tied, then it's he's up. Then, I mean, polls don't get everybody out there to do it.
No.
And all you got to do is just let Trump be Trump, let Joe be Joe, and Joe will wipe this out. They have like with the debate, I think it was tired, and I think they tried to constrain him. And the people that did that should be fired. He should get
Well,
people in there that like AOC that that fight back, not
right.
the people that are well all this. I mean, let Joe be Joe. If Joe is Joe, like a State of the Union, look what he did with Margie Taylor Greene. I mean,
Yeah.
he shut her up a lot when he just. I mean, he caught and she was quiet
Look
because I mean, when he made that face at her, she backed down.
look what he did to Lester Holt in this recent
Yeah,
interview. Lester Holt was an absolute disappointment. My wife loved Lester Holt. After seeing that, she says, fuck Lester Holt. I don't want anything to do with him. And that's what these media people and these Democrats have to understand. When this is all said and done, people will not forget about your complicity and your pussy ass bitch behavior as left side or Democratic people. You went against the wrong guy. You can talk about Donald Trump and having all these supporters that live and die by him. But even though they're not cult members, the Democrats that support Joe Biden, they're just as ferocious as the MAGA, except they're doing it for the right reasons and not treating him like a deity, but support him because they love the guy and they believe in the guy.
and you talk about Lester Holt. That's the same reason what Lester Holt did. What Lester Holt did is what David Muir did to Biden a few years ago. He did something where he really went after Biden for something that wasn't fair, and that's why I can't watch David Muir anymore. And then seeing what Lester Holt did, it's like it's that virus has consumed all of media. I don't know if it's true or not, but the people that own MSNBC, NBC, I mean, they're Trump supporters. They're Trump. Don't I know CNN is. I mean, look at Anderson Cooper. I mean, Anderson Cooper was like trying to shame people for having a problem with a Trump supporter taking over CNN.
Right.
Screw you. You're supposed to report to me. I don't have to answer to you.
And we don't have to watch it. And
Nope, I don't.
frankly, the ratings on all these outlets are dropping like a fucking rock. But I tell you what, my ratings and some of the other people who do what I do, we can't compare to the ratings they have. But my ratings ain't dropping. They're fucking picking up big as we get closer to the election. And
Well,
and
you
I
have
think,
two handsome mugs like this, dude. It's only going to shoot up, man.
well,
Come
there you
on.
go. I mean, people have commented before and say, "Sure, Mike, you're doing a good job, but you're a fucking thirst trap. You're a snack, as you will." I'm not trying to do this based on my looks, you know. I'm trying to do it with intellectual capability. Now, people out there are going to
Same
say,
here.
people out there are going, they're going, he's not that good looking. I know it's a joke, bitch.
Learn to take a joke, people. It's
Yeah,
you gotta laugh too.
yeah, exactly. Well, Jace, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Jace from Texas is with us. We've got a robust conversation going as we normally do here on the Rational Boomer podcast. I wanted to bring up this shooting again, you know, whether it's a hoax, whether it was real. Um, my gut tells me, decency tells me that if somebody died in it, nobody would go to that extent for a hoax unless they fucked up horribly. But there are a couple of things that will be signals to me whether it was real or it was rigged or staged. First of all, we need to see the ear. Because as you pointed out, and I pointed out, that if a high velocity bullet from 130 yards even nicks your ear, there's going to be significant damage. Now, the interesting thing is the next day he's playing golf, no pad on his ear. And then he goes to the convention and he's got what looks like a mini pad or a maxi pad taped to his head. And then these cult members, I don't know if you saw this, everybody in the convention stuck something on their ear to be just like Trump. It's ridiculous and it's sad and it's pitiful. but but the other thing that I'm going to be interested to see when he speaks is that people have been suggesting that while he's been there, he hasn't really talked yet. He's been there sitting, watching what's going on. We know he fell asleep at least once too while he was watching. There's some video of that.
I don't
Um,
blame him. I would have too.
oh yeah, boring as a motherfucker. But if it was a real shooting and it wasn't staged, Donald Trump by nature is a coward. And when you come that close to dying and you don't have control over it, because understand Donald Trump has to have control over everything. If this is something outside his control and this really happened, his message may not be different, but his delivery is going to be different. He looked a little pensive while he was sitting there during the convention. Maybe he was just tired. But if he comes out talking like he did before the shooting, that tells me it may not be real because he's a coward at heart. This has got to scare the shit out of him if someone is going out of their way to try to kill him. And then he also knows that Iran was trying to kill him too. Um, this has got to weigh on him. And it'll be interesting to see if we can see any of that in his speech today.
Yeah, what gets me about it is that he's going about this the whole wrong way because he's embracing this whole badass attitude, like that post he put, Trump versus the bullet, Biden versus the stairs. I don't think he's taking this serious. I mean, when you have he's out there playing golf. He's evidently, said it changed him. I think you're right. I think he's so narcissistic that he doesn't realize how close he may have come to getting killed. And I know we were talking about the whole WWE thing. I don't think it was. I say trust but verify. In my deep down normal self, think back to like 1985 when we could rationally think. I don't think it was a hoax. The Art
But
Bell side of me thinks it was.
but here's the
But
thing. Here's the thing. We're coming from a logical, common sense,
Yes.
reasonable thought process. We have to understand the other side, especially
Yes.
Donald Trump knows nothing of that whole thing.
Yeah.
So we're coming from it with a normal ideology about it. But these fuckers are so crazy. That's why you have to question it, because they would come up with crazy
True.
shit like this. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump sacrificed somebody in his crowd just to make him look better. He's that kind of guy. That's why I have questions about logic, and common sense tells me no, but I have to consider the fucking source.
But look at the party, Mike. I mean, they want any kind of like they don't want to ban this. They don't want to like go after, they don't even want common sense gun control. And it's like there's a guy up on top of a roof, and this crossed my mind, with him. I guess he was up there and people saw him, and it's like, well, it's a Trump rally. What are they giving? They're giving away AR-15s at the Republican National Convention.
Here's the
I
interesting
mean,
thing. I saw some video footage today. It's the first time I've seen it. And it happens to take in that building. And the kid that did the shooting was walking around on the ground before or during
yeah.
the speech. He was there. He was in the video. They could have seen him by the building, and that should have been a red flag to somebody, just to see somebody walking by there.
But it's just the whole thing about it. It's just that it's like January 6th. I mean, they wanted to take away the metal detectors. I mean, it's like, maybe it's like that at a Trump rally. I've never been to a Trump rally, but what comes out of this is the saddest part for me is that a widow could not take a call from a sitting president who was only thinking about her and her family. Biden was very complimentary of somebody. A lot more complimentary than I would have been at somebody at a Trump rally. And well, my husband wouldn't have approved. And it's like, then I see all these people. Well, Trump raised $3 million. Trump didn't do that. That was a GoFundMe. He didn't do
Yeah.
anything. He had nothing to do with it.
You didn't even
But it's
mention
just,
a name.
I know, and I guess he eventually called her, but she said, "Well, I could, I have nothing against Biden, but my husband would allow me to take the call." I mean, people say, "Well, what do you call it a cult?" That's it right there.
That's the
My
essence of
God,
a cult.
honestly, if okay, I told somebody this one time and they thought I was fucking crazy. If I did something miraculous and like I saved a bunch of lives and Trump was president, he called me to congratulate me, I'd take his call
Yeah.
because he's still the fucking president.
Yeah.
But that's what we've lost track of. We can't that I mean, not the Democrats, but even like when they did in the debate, I was like, are they going to shake hands? We're so tiptoe around the shit that you can't take a hey, good job or whatever, everything like that. It's like Reagan said when he was on the operating table. Well, I hope you guys are Republicans. We used to be able to joke about that, but not even. You're so wrapped up in your hatred for the other side, you can't even take a call. Oh, fair. Oh, wishing you. You don't have to vote for them, but just taking the call, and that's how crazy that other side is.
Well, and the interesting thing is Joe Biden also called Donald Trump. It,
Yes.
it took hours for him to get in touch with Donald Trump. It took hours for the sitting president to reach Donald Trump. And then he finally took it because he thought it would blow back on him. I'd love to have heard what that conversation was. I don't know how it could have gone well. I don't know what kind of condition Donald Trump was in at the time. But that's just Joe Biden doing what a president does. It's not even Joe Biden. He's the president. He's calling for the office of the presidency. That's what he should do. That's how he should handle it. At the same time, when Joe Biden took over on January 20th, 2021, you remember the month leading up, Donald Trump did nothing to help him transition. He pouted and said, I'm not helping you. You fucking come in here and
Yep.
do it yourself. That's the difference in personalities and people, how they interpret this job. Donald Trump thinks it's his playland to do whatever the fuck he wants. At least Joe Biden has the decency to understand the protocol of the office.
Well, it's like you said, Trump doesn't think ahead. He
No,
lives in the moment. So, he was probably, having a good conversation with Joe Biden. Joe Biden's an honorable, good man. And, and Trump is just somebody that, the personality we see in display out with MAGA, that's not who he is. He
No.
kisses ass whoever he's around. That's the way he does it. He wants to be liked by people. That's why he did that with Hollywood. So he was probably, it was probably a nice conversation. And I'm not saying that because of Trump. I'm saying that because of Biden.
Yeah.
And Biden's very charming, and then Trump can be too. A rattlesnake, I guess, can too. I don't know, but by Trump probably was, oh yeah, yeah, we'll have to play that golf game, something like it was probably something like that, because he hasn't come out and said, well, Biden tried to kill me, has he? I haven't seen that part of it. Of
No.
course, Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them are, saying we're in a war, but I haven't heard Trump, attack Biden. I've heard him say, oh yeah, Biden talked to me. It was a nice conversation. I haven't heard him go after Biden, but then again, I try not to pay attention to Trump, but I don't think it was anything contentious. I think that, if
No, I
anything,
don't
it's like,
either.
oh, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is that's the interesting part. How is he going to come off in this speech later tonight? Um, he said he changed his speech, and we know Donald Trump lies.
He didn't write it in the first place.
No, he didn't write it in the first place. But here's the thing: people are saying, well, if he comes off nice and calm and different, maybe that'll help him in the election. Really? You think people are going to, first of all, trust what he says? Second of all, forgive him for overturning Roe v. Wade, forgive him for stealing classified? This doesn't change anything. It might probably piss off MAGA if he comes off more like a weak ass bitch.
I don't think he doesn't give, like I saw Biden's speech. I think it was in Michigan or somewhere, but he was just, boy, you talk about a fire and brimstone preacher. Like you said, he was pissed. I haven't seen Trump like that. If anything, I've seen Trump more kind of low energy,
Yeah.
he's not what he was in 2016. I will admit, I watched that uh, speech when he gave in 2016 at the Republican National Convention because I was still somewhat interested. But when I had to see it for myself that he actually got the nomination, that's when I was done with the Republicans. But he's not what he was before. And if he gets up there and he talks like he does at those rallies, there are going to be a lot of people seeing that. For that, I think I replied to one of your comments on there where people are going to see Trump and the crazy shit that's on there now. You've seen that with Kerry Lake. You've seen that with a lot of the people speaking. So evidently Biden's speech was a lot more watched than anything so far with the national convention. So it'll be interesting to see what his numbers say because ratings are what's important to him because the Apprentice was the biggest rated show of all time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just read a news story that just came across, and just for context, this show is being recorded at about 10:30 Central Daylight Time on Wednesday. This came across. We know that Adam Schiff came out and said Joe should step aside. There's now a report that Nancy Pelosi sat down with Joe Biden and said, look, the polls suggest that you can't win, and the polls suggest that you lose the down ballot, you need to step aside. Now, I don't know if that's a true story, but something to consider here. First of all, I haven't seen those polls. I don't know what polls they're talking about, and they should show it to the public unless they want to piss off the public, and they've already pissed off the public. But I will say this. In the interview that Joe Biden said, they kept pressing him about stepping aside. He says, I'm not going to do that. But he added a caveat when he was talking. I don't know if you caught this, but he says, if I'm not going to step aside, unless they come to me and prove to me with polls that we just cannot win with me running. It seems like a setup. He left that door open, even though he knew the polls weren't showing that at all. So all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi's coming up with polls that show he can't win. And I don't see them. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So are they setting it up to do this? I'm going to tell you something about these Democrats. If you somehow convince Joe Biden to step aside, you're going to piss off a lot of people. And if you do, you better be fucking right. God help you, because you know what's going to happen. The Republican Party is going to implode, but you're going to destroy the Democratic Party too, because they're going to be split up as well. And maybe that's the end result, that both parties implode and we start fucking over. That may be a better choice.
Well, I've already seen the Republicans are they're gonna if he does step down, they're already planning to sue. So it's got that too. I mean, we're too close to it. Let me ask you a question, Mike. Biden steps down, and I'll ask you two parts. If I in the back of my mind, I think he's going to step down. I just got a bad feeling. I don't want him to. I think it's too late into the game, and I believe in him because it's not like he's going to go into a job. He's already doing the job.
Right.
The people are already set in place,
And he's
and
done
that's
it
what the
better than
Democrat
anybody.
and that's what the Democrats can't see. They can't see that he's in there already. So, two things: if Biden steps down and Kamala runs, does she win? And B, if Biden steps down and they replace Kamala, do the Democrats still beat the Republicans?
Well, I've said all along that I think any Democrat can beat Donald Trump or any other Republican, given all that's gone on. I don't think this election is about personalities as much as it's not as it's not about how good Joe Biden is. It's how bad Donald Trump and the
Yeah,
Republicans are, because what they've done is the most outrageous shit. That's what makes them Donald Trump the worst possible candidate in the history of this country. I mean, Gary Hart had some chippy sitting on his knee and he got kicked out of the race. These motherfuckers overturned Roe v. Wade, taking constitutional rights away from 50% of this country. Donald Trump's been convicted. He's tied to the most prolific pedophile in history. There's no way, based on what people know about this guy, that he wins the election. It goes back to what I said before. He lost by 7 million votes in 2020. Please tell me where he made up those 7 million votes in the last 4 years and then added to it so he could win. There's been nothing that gained him support in these years. So I think Joe Biden should be the one that runs. If Joe Biden on his own decides to step out, they got to run Kamala. If they come and
yes.
say, let's run Gavin Newsom or something like this, they could be great candidates. But like you say, it's 4 months out, 3 months out. There's where the
I
risk is. The risk isn't in Joe. The risk is in whoever the fuck else they put in there.
and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I see it in Texas all the time. If they replace Joe and they replace Kamala, you may have Democrats stay home. And MAGA's going to vote no matter what. They've proven that.
Yeah.
That could be a way Trump wins.
Well,
But if
well,
Democrats stay home,
but again, I know what you're saying, and that kind of makes sense. But again, going back to what I said, this isn't about Joe and this isn't about Donald Trump. This is about democracy.
I
People
agree.
understand what's at risk here. And like people have said, I'd vote for a ham sandwich over Donald Trump. And I really believe that there's a lot of people who believe that. They don't get counted in polls. The Democratic Party isn't accounting for them, but I am. We've seen it with them supporting Joe Biden. We see it with I mean, on my page, I get terrified people,
Yeah.
dozens and dozens every day, just terrified that the world's going to end. They came out in fear in droves in 2020. They're more fearful now, and it's going to be even bigger in 2024. I'm convinced of that, regardless of who's running.
And that's what pisses me off about this Democratic leadership is that they don't see that. They don't see that people will vote for Biden over Trump no matter what. They didn't, look what happened across the way. They were down in the polls. The right was, surging. And what gets me about it too is that, the media also said that abortion wasn't an issue anymore. Look what happened in Ohio, a red state. And I think people don't realize how pissed off people will be if Biden does step aside.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like I think that'll be a bigger story, but it's like you said, that's what they want. They want, they love to watch somebody's, rise, but they love to watch them fall too. And what they should be doing is going after Trump. But I guess they figure that his base is so concrete behind him well, there's a little bit of, a little bit of wiggle room here with the Democrats. Let's go after that. It's a vulnerability. They smell blood in the water, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
Good or bad, end of democracy be, end of democracy be damned, as long as we get the fucking ratings.
Right. That's, the media is not our friends.
Nope.
I've cut back watching
Oh, I have
mainstream
to.
media completely. Um, Maybe Lawrence O'Donnell, maybe Joy Reid, but generally I'm tired of the bullshit and I'm tired of the complicity with, it's not even complicity with the Republicans or Donald Trump. It's complicity with damaging this country.
Oh yeah.
They may not
You
be may not be specifically going on to travel to damage this country. They just don't care. There's a bigger picture, like you said, ratings and money, and that's all that matters.
Okay, you said something you didn't think Trump would be the nominee. I mean, you don't think he'll make it to November. Do you see him making it to November with all the crap coming up? And do you see Biden staying in the race?
Well, I'm like you. I've said all along that I think Biden will stay in the race because it's his choice. And
Yes.
what does Biden have to lose? It's his choice. What does he have to lose? He knows better than anybody else in Washington, D.C. He's the most experienced guy. He understands what's going on. I say he stays in the race. I don't know what kind of pressures they can get put on him, but the fact of the matter is that uh, anything could happen. Donald Trump, I've said Donald Trump may not be the candidate. And I've said that because of all the pressure hanging over his head, the lawsuits, the money. I mean, he's getting all this money from people. None of it's going to campaigning. I mean,
Nope.
that's the other part of this. Joe's got money to campaign. Donald Trump doesn't. If you don't think that has an impact on the election, you're fucking fooling yourself. I think here's the thing. I think Donald Trump could get too much pressure and maybe break down emotionally or physically. I think that's definitely possible. If Joe Biden could keel over, so can Donald Trump. Um, but the problem for the Republicans is this: the Republicans have to have him as the nominee,
Yeah.
even if he sacrifice him in the presidential election. Like you said, people just won't come out and vote, and they'll lose all the way down the down ballot. So they've got no choice now. They've got to prop him up. It's just as if Donald Trump breaks down in some way, how can they continue to prop him up? That will be interesting. Now, maybe, Donald Trump may be like a cockroach. He can go through it. But if he really got shot at in Pennsylvania, he's going to be looking over his shoulder all the time. And since we know Iran was thinking of doing it, this is what I said about the Republicans and the Democrats. And this is my greatest fear. Everybody talks about civil war if the Democrats win, right? I don't think that's going to happen because they're all pussy ass bitches and they're cowards.
Mhm.
But if it looks like Donald Trump is going to win, as I said, people are terrified. Maybe the Democrats are more reasonable. But if they're terrified about their futures, their kids' futures, and democracy as a whole, there may be somebody on the Democratic side that says, fuck it. We're going down anyway, so I'm going to go down in a burst of flames. That's where to me, if it looks imminent that Donald Trump will be president, he better be guarded because I think there's people on the left
Wow.
that will be scared enough. I I'm just guessing
Yeah.
here based on how people think.
Well, you saw, did you, I don't know if you, during the, yeah, I can see that happening because, I remember watching 16 when the results were coming in and how the futures market just crashed. I mean, the
Yeah.
Dow was down like futures market got 1,000 points. And we didn't really know too much. We just got, oh, he's a clown, back then. Now, like you said, we know more about him now. And it's just, it's a mistake to say that all the crazies are on the right. A lot of crazies on the left too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Don Henley said something, evil is still evil in anybody's name.
Right.
Like the old, it's an old Don Henley song. So it's like you can say right or left, and you get to that point to where there's really no difference.
Right. Well,
And
if you push anybody in a corner,
yeah,
they're going to fight. You push a baby bunny in the corner, they're going to
yeah,
try to fight.
because
And
they have nothing to lose.
and if people are in the mindset that it's all over, democracy's gone, my country's gone, like some Republicans feel if Joe Biden would win, that's why they're crazy on that side. But I know from what I read every day, there are people absolutely terrified. Now, the vast majority of those people wouldn't act out like that, but you only need one. And I'm afraid that could occur, and that could cause all kinds of other problems.
Well, that could be. I mean, that could be. I mean, not just about that, but that what about the people behind the controls? The military. Are they going to install martial law or something to stop him from going in there? You never know. It could be. It's like a John Clancy movie. Hide the president. No, and he's got executive immunity now, so he can pretty much say, hey, according to the Supreme Court, he's got that now, and he can just, and he has that, and it can be an official act. I vacate the Supreme Court. I'm the supreme meter. I mean, there may be some people, if Biden is losing that bad at Trump, they may do that. It may, I mean, I mean, God, you got me thinking all kinds of scenarios now,
Well,
Mike.
well,
I need to write a book.
think
Woo.
about think about this. If Joe Biden becomes president, what scares the wealthy people is he's got nothing to lose. He's not going to live that much longer. He may not go the 4 years, but he's all of a sudden gone more to the left to establish a legacy that would be unparalleled, maybe even by FDR, and starting to help the middle class and take it out of the rich people's ass. That's why people are upset about it. So he has nothing to lose if he's president, but he has even less to lose if they take him from the nomination between now and January 20th. He's got that immunity thing. Fuck, I'd say fuck it. I'm pardoning
Hunter.
Hunter. And frankly, if Cannon's situation plays out, he was prosecuted by a special prosecutor too. Let that fucker go. But maybe Joe Biden does whatever he can on the way out. I'm not suggesting he would send the SEAL Team 6 after Donald, but he could do some other things that could cause some huge problems going into the election.
I just remember when Obama was president, and I just remember them saying that, oh, he's gonna, invalidate the election, and stay as president. Then I heard Trump was going to do that. So, I mean, it's just our imaginations run. I mean, I'd much rather take my chances with a grumpy old man than a senile old man,
Yeah.
and it's like, and, I just, with Trump, it's just like, what's scary about Trump is that he can be bought. I mean, he don't care. I mean, we don't know what he did with those classified documents he had.
No.
We don't know with that. And the people, I much rather have the people who are working with Biden and his cabinet now running things like they've been running than the people, like JD Vance and all those people that'll take over with the Project 2025. You notice how after the shooting that's kind of gone by the wayside, that people aren't really talking about it anymore.
No.
It's almost as if, wag the dog happened and he's not even fucking president.
Right. Right. Well, we brought up the Florida thing, Aileen Cannon. When you heard Aileen Cannon dismissed the classified documents case, what was your what was your initial reaction?
I wasn't surprised. I knew this
Yeah.
was coming.
Yeah.
She what I'm curious, I'm not so much worried. It's like you said, we got the 34 indictments on him. They you can say what you want to about it, but those are real felonies.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that what I'm more concerned about is the Washington trial.
Yeah.
When is that going to start? The Eileen Cannon, it was always a crapshoot because she was his judge. You don't see all Trump judges doing that, because a lot of Trump judges, struck down his, motions to overturn the election.
Well, they got to live beyond Donald Trump's
Yeah,
death, so they've got to do the
she
right thing.
she is auditioning for a Supreme Court a job. That's
Or
what she.
AG, or
Yeah,
AG.
yeah. Well, I think Paxton will get that if he wins.
Wow, that would be tragic.
Yeah,
Well, let me ask you this though. We know that Jack Smith announced yesterday that he is appealing it. And this was the ultimate goal. The only reason he hasn't appealed to the 11th Circuit up to this point is because she made no decisions. Now she made a decision, and she made the fatal flaw of making a big decision. You know it's going to be overturned by the 11th Circuit, and you know they're going to kick her off. Now, granted, they could go to the Supreme Court, and it will just drag this out more, which doesn't matter at this point. It's not going to happen before the election anyway. See, I'm a firm believer in, people get upset. Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? I just wait and watch and see what happens. Something bad happens. Okay. What's the next step? We can't agonize over stuff that's already past us. And the idea of this coming off before the election, just not going to happen. Now, Judge Chutkin in DC, that's a different situation. That trial will not start before the election, but the evidence may come out.
Okay. Yeah, I knew isn't there some kind of hearing coming up sometime soon since they got the Supreme Court? I
Well,
haven't heard much about that.
well, there's going to be a bunch of hearings. Basically, what the Supreme Court said is, Judge Chutkin, you've got to determine what's official and unofficial for a president. So now what she can do is she can say, all right, bring all your evidence. We're going to have hearings. It won't be a trial, but we're going to have the hearings, and we're going to lay all this evidence out end to end. And this is not what Donald Trump wants. He doesn't want because see, even if the trial doesn't happen and the convictions don't happen until after the election, the big concern is all this evidence that proves Donald Trump had done it. It will have the same effect on the election as a trial because it will basically be a bunch of mini trials exposing all this evidence. Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it, and they got it. They could have delayed this, but instead they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, once again, blew up the Republicans months before the election, like they did in 2022 with overturning Roe v. Wade. Supreme Court hasn't done these fuckers any good in the upcoming elections. They seem to explode it just before the election, and that decision is going to have a serious effect on the election too. People are terrified of that.
I also think his judgment, like when he gets sentenced in September, I think that's going to have a lot to do with it too.
Oh yeah,
for the New York trial because I, when we see these people like wearing diapers and they're wearing the bandages on their ears. I get these texts from people and they're just so surprised, like, wow, can you believe they're doing this? Well, considering most of my family are MAGA, I see the stuff on Facebook and I get the YouTube videos sent to me of Trump walking there along with the Apostle Paul, and it's like, can you imagine hating somebody just because he sacrificed his sacrificed his business career and his family for this country? And I go, no, I can hate the motherfucker because he got 34 felonies. They don't send me that shit anymore.
and
But
he's a
that
sexual
shit is so
predator.
rampant. It's just you just wait. You just wait till the after this election, after he gets the nomination, leading up to Biden stays in. But evidently, JD Vance turned down a opportunity to debate Kamala.
Yeah.
So if the Democrats do somehow convince Joe to step down, she better goddamn well be the one to doing it because she has the experience, a lot more experience than that VP they got.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
she terrifies the holy, but don't let anybody fool you. She does.
She terrifies a lot of people. Um, yeah, it's. I just want to bring up something too because some people have asked me about this. I did a live a while back, and I was getting pissed off at MAGA, and I said, "Listen, if you guys think you're so smart, why don't you come on the show and debate me?"
Yeah.
Well, one guy said, "I'll debate you. I'll be respectful, but I debate you." I said, "Okay, here's my email. Send me an email. We'll set it up." So he sends me an email. I said, I do it at 9 o'clock Central Daylight Time. I'm ready anytime you are. I'll send you a link. Well, it's going to be kind of tight with the plane I'm getting off. I said, well, if you're getting off a plane, we can do it the next day or the next day.
Yeah.
And so he says, well, I tell you what, it's toward the end of the week. So I'll call you next week and we'll set it up. Guess what? I haven't heard one word from that pussy ass bitch. And I would love to, the whole idea of doing a show like that is really, It's like a train wreck. People want to watch it, but they don't want to watch it. I don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. Sometimes you just got to get your anger off your chest. And when you get a stupid motherfucker that's trying to tear down the country, it's a nice outlet. but
Yeah.
but as so often the case, they talk big and then they don't show. So if you're wondering why I haven't done that show yet, because MAGA's a pussy ass bitch. Um, but
Well, no offense, Mike, but when you have them on there, I probably won't listen, like a lot of your listeners say, because it's like watching a fight and you're Mike Tyson and the other guy's me. You're just beating the shit out of me. And
well,
it's just, throw in the goddamn towel.
you know what?
My God, like what was it, Rocky Four, when like Apollo's getting beat by the Russian? Throw in the fucking towel. It's
You
like
know what?
that's what it's like.
You know what the crazy thing about it is everybody I talk to says, don't do it. I don't want to listen to it.
Uh,
But every one of those shows have been the most listened to
I
shows I
believe it.
do.
I believe it.
Everybody said, don't do it. I feel dirty after I do it. Like I say, I felt like I kicked a puppy because they have nothing. So that probably isn't going to happen. And that's probably for the best. But as we go down toward this
I tell you
election,
what, Mike, you should have met me about 20, 25 years ago.
that would have
I would
been
have
fun.
debated you.
Oh,
I would have
yeah.
debated. I wasn't ever MAGA. I mean, I was a Republican, but that's back when the Republicans actually stood for something. A lot of
Right.
it,
Right.
I a lot of I look back on my life and I'm horrified that I look at that. It's almost like, God, was I? It's almost like I did porn, and it's just like I'm ashamed of it. And they weren't even hot. The girls weren't even hot, And it's like that's why I look back at my life as like, because I don't think the way I did back then. I was a real cocky son of a gun, and I just, I had, Rush Limbaugh in my back pocket, and I just read some of the stuff now, and I just like, God, what was I? It's like that night at the bar. You wake up, I'm like, oh my God, how old is she? And I mean, it's just, what was I thinking? What was I drinking?
Well, there may have been a time in my life when I would have been more conservative, but those were more normal times.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see myself as a far left liberal or a far right conservative. I'm at a point now where I'm not picking sides so much as I'm for anybody who tells the truth and does what's right. If that was a Democrat, a fucking Muslim, I don't care. We've got so much that's been wrong and so many things that have been put upon us as the middle class. It's time. One of the things I'm thinking of after November, because of all the shit going on with the Republicans and they may be destroyed and the Democrats may be tearing themselves apart,
Yeah.
when we get out from underneath this shit with losing democracy and we save that, what I want to do with my show and what I do with TikToks, instead of saying, okay, Democrats are in charge now, we can rest. That's not the case. What my goal and what I'll be shooting for is, okay, we got out of that mess. Now it's time we get the power back where it's supposed to be, with the people, not with the Democrats, not with the Republicans, because they all work against us at different levels. Now we as a people, we've pulled people together and now we've got some power, a voice to say something. So now we got to get the power back where it's supposed to be, because it hasn't been there in a long time.
We got to get the special interest out of there, the
Yeah.
lobbyist. You got to get the people that, you need to have people, that's about as, easy as, getting my hair to grow back. I mean, it's gonna take some work. So, I mean, you get rid of, both sides. You have the people that, you got to get Washington, and I know it's easier said than done. You got to get Washington back to compromise,
Right.
because I don't think the way you do, you don't think the way I do. I mean, you consider yourself a Christian. I consider myself agnostic, but that don't mean we can't, come to a common goal. You don't hate me because I don't believe in your God.
No.
That's what it's gotten behind. That's what it's become. It's like, and I only see the Democrats doing that, but don't get me wrong, and you're right. Once they get a little bit of power, they're, like I've said this before on your show, a lot of people blame Reagan for the shit we got in, but who was the Congress at the time? The
Yeah.
Democrats.
Right. Exactly.
Reagan wouldn't have got half his shit through there if it wasn't for the Democrats, and I stand by that.
Well,
There
that's
is, you know,
Republicans are definitely our enemy, but the Democrats are not our champions.
yes,
The Democrats are the lesser of two evils, and it's a
yes.
big difference, of course. I only side with the Democrats at this point because we got to fight against the Republicans. But after the Democrats gain power, we got to fight for ourselves. We really do. I mean, Roe v. Wade should have been codified. It wasn't. There are big money Democrats, as we're seeing now, going after Joe Biden. We got to deal with those motherfuckers. We got a lot to fix. We got a dumpster fire now. We got to put that fucker out. And then we got a lot to fix in this government.
And I think that's what gets me about why I'm such a champion of Joe Biden, because I see him out there and I see him actually giving a fuck about people.
Yeah.
I don't see that from the higher ups with the Democrats. I see them as, I think that's a big reason why, he wants to get rid of these student loans. Who would sue against helping somebody out? And all I hear from my Republican friends, well, the people that went to college, they feel like they're being used. I go, what about a rich person that got a loan that doesn't have to pay that back?
Right.
Why is that okay? But
The
I went
people,
to college to better myself. I can't even get out of bankruptcy with that. I mean, you can bankrupt. How many times Trump did bankruptcy with business,
right.
but you can't bankruptcy a college loan. And I'll be honest with you, you can do almost anything through bankruptcy, but not a college loan though.
Right. Well, the thing, and what I've said about the college loans is too, over and above the helping the young people of this country, it's almost a necessity economically because we're in
Mhm.
trouble economically if no one can buy a house and no one can buy a
Yeah,
car and they don't have discretionary money. Once they stop buying things, everything you own goes down in value, including your house, and the economy goes to shit. Don't worry, don't think about it as helping out young people. Thinking about the future and what the economy is going to be. If no one can buy anything and they're going to take over the millennials and the Gen Zs, what's that going to do to the economy? It's going to fuck it up.
that's email you wrote about I guess the parents, helping their daughter out and how they're going after
Yeah,
their Social Security now. That's the kind of message. That's the kind of message that needs to get out to people.
yeah,
People I know, a lot of Republicans don't care, but that's the thing that maybe Joe Biden should get up there and read, that when he's doing this or when they're fighting, to get these done. Because, you know, if you're a guy and you're older and you're living in a house and you want to sell that house is going to stay on the market because Joe Schmo out there who's out of college with a $400,000 debt. I mean, it's like he's not going to have any money to do that because
right,
it's like God, 2,000. I mean, $2,000. Yeah, I live in Texas. I mean, that's twice more what I pay for my mortgage.
right.
And it's in a lot of times I never finished college because I always saw that was just too much.
Yeah,
It was just, it's like luckily I worked, starting, 30, 40 years ago, back when, you could, build something. A lot of kids don't have that now because AI is taking a lot of this shit over. And, they want these kids to have all these debts, but they're not getting these jobs they come out of college for.
right.
And a lot of that's the institution because they don't train, everybody thinks they need to be a doctor. Well, no, you can be a plumber, you can be an electrician, but our education system doesn't prepare us for that. They just
Well,
think, hey, you got to have this $400,000 loan a lot of times because, there's no way to pay it back.
well, yeah, exactly. At this point, unless you're going to be a professional, um, going to college and getting loans doesn't make any financial sense at all.
No,
It
it never
doesn't.
did for me.
I went to college for 1 year. I spent most of the time um, drinking beer and trying to pick up women. I wasn't successful in either, so I said college isn't for
Not
me.
even the beer?
Well,
Man, Mike.
well, I was good at drinking the beer. It
Yeah.
was the aftermath of drinking the beer, how I behaved after I drank the beer. So it didn't, in the end, work out for me. Fortunately, I will say this: I had one win with college and drinking beer. I met my wife where all good relationships start, in a bar. I probably was overserved. I saw her across the way. She was with another girl who I knew, which was a good thing. There was some old guy, probably 40, that was hitting on these two, and they were drunk. And of course, when I was young and drinking, I had the benefit of becoming not only the sexiest but the toughest man alive. So I will go over there. I want to meet this girl. I get this old guy out of the way and say, "Get the fuck out of here. Leave these people alone." And then I meet her and then we go from there. So alcohol and a bar and college, because she went to the U too, even though I didn't know her from school. I knew the girl from school. That's the one win I got from college. And now I've been married 40 years, so I can't complain about that. But other than that, the drinking didn't do me well. In fact, when I turned to 28 or so, I said, fuck it, I'm quitting. I got a kid, I got a wife, I got a house. I'm not good at this. So I quit, and I've quit ever since. Um, but you mentioned being a plumber and electrician. There's a shortage of plumbers and electricians. You can go to a tech school. You can get out, get in and be a journeyman, not a journeyman. What do they call it? Not an intern, whatever it
Handyman,
is,
apprentice.
apprentice. And you can go up the ladder and you can end up making
Oh yeah,
$125 an hour and be as busy as you fucking want to be.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
But I think
that's
a
not
lot
a
of our
bad
problem,
option.
we glamorize too many other ones. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer.
There's too
Because
many of
honestly,
them.
when I was 20 something, I wanted to be a lawyer. And it's like I look back at it now, is like, of course, everything in hindsight, it's like, well, shit, I should have done that. But I tell you what, I didn't buy my first house till I was 40, about 12 years ago.
Right.
And I've sure as hell fucking learned a lot of around the house bullshit that I had to learn that, I didn't have to learn when I was in an apartment. But, learning it here, life teaches you that shit. And luckily that I have a lot of people that I know around me. But man, I that's one thing I regret is like, God, I should have learned like a trade or something, beside,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
gotten this far on my good looks anyway. So it's like, shit, man, I'm really lucky I've gotten this far.
Yeah. I worked on my good looks too. And now I'm doing a radio show on the internet in my living room. So
Yeah. And I'm here
I've
with you.
reached the highest peaks. Yeah, just reached the highest peaks. Well, we're coming to the end here, Jay. So I appreciate you making yourself available for tonight. It's always interesting talking to you, especially with a perspective uh, down in Texas. And if you see Old Soul, I'm not sure what city she's in, but if you see her, help her out. She doesn't need
And I
any
wanna
help.
and I wanna thank her too because I think she's an inspiration to the other. Like you said, you're a lot better person than I am. I mean,
Yeah, she definitely
I
is.
I get nervous just driving by a prison. I mean, I can't imagine going in and, like, helping people out, shit. That tells you kind of a pussy ass bitch I am.
Well, no, I'm with you. I'm with you there. I can just imagine. I like how she tells the stories about her family. It's truly amazing that they all come together and help out any crazy fucking thing she does. And I can just see it. Uncle, what's his name? Cleo, Uncle
Yeah,
Cleo, or her TT, or her grandma.
yeah.
I can just see him going, "Oh fuck, here we go," when she comes up with something else.
Yeah, that cracked me up when she had to go get them out of the they were in the casino drinking. Is like, "Hey, man, that sounds like a good time, man. Next that sounds like it'd be a fun time to party with." They'd probably outdrink me on the table. I'm such a teetotaler, so
Get some old people drunk. I love the part where somebody made the nice comment. Oh, look at those women over there. They're the golden girls. And grandma said, no, they're the golden hoes. I think I could party with that, grandma.
I'd probably last an hour and I'd probably have to go back to bed. They'd probably out party me.
Yeah, no question. No question. Well, Jace, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. We
Don't
pushed
lose
through a
hope,
lot of
people.
stuff.
Don't lose hope.
No,
Keep
don't.
fighting and keep Biden in there. Biden, stay in there. We're gonna win this in November.
I'm a firm believer in destiny. And the way I deal with things is, you keep pushing forward. Some things happen that are good. Some things that happen are bad. Don't get too caught up in everything. Just keep pushing forward. Do what you're supposed to do. If something bad happens, okay, there's nothing you can do to fix it. Like if Joe Biden does step aside, I'm not going to like it, but I'm not going to cry over it. I got to get to the goal because I think the greatest goal we have here isn't Joe's next 4 years or what we're going to do. Our goal, our only achievement that we have to do is win in November. As long as we keep focused on winning in November, we'll be able to do that. And then we can worry about all that other shit. Will Joe last another 4 years? I don't care about that. I just want to win that election. And frankly, if Joe wanted to step aside and Kamala gave us the best opportunity to win in November, I'm cool with it because I just want to win that election. That's the first thing. Everything else, we can work it out later.
You watch Joe step aside and you watch the Republicans freak the fuck out and do all these lawsuits to keep him in there. Then the Democrats will look like egg in his face, and that'll give Joe more incentive to win. But tell you what now, turn off corporate media, turn on the Rational Boomer.
Rational Boomer, Midas Touch, anybody else. I'm
Yes.
serious. I don't even watch it anymore. And I watched it all the time just to get tips of information. Right now,
Corporate media.
when news stories come up, I just check my phone. And once I have the news story, I go to good sources for the facts. I don't watch corporate media anymore. And if you want to have an impact on corporate media, you stop watching. If you want to have an impact on your politicians, stop voting for them.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's
sir.
as simple as that. All right. Well, for those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.